Okay, guys, going to come to you with another video. We'll call this Protein 2.0. I have a lot of questions around it, and I know protein is high this week. For most people, this will be the highest your protein is because we haven't had a huge deficit yet, but the macros have shifted, and therefore you're consuming a little bit more protein. So a couple things of why we make protein the main focus in our nutrition. One, I think it's the healthiest. There's so many vitamins and minerals, and protein is a superfood, and I'll break that down in that long video I'm getting ready to do over all the foods that I like. But the idea is we do what's called protein leveraging. So it's very hard to overeat protein. As you guys know, you sit down and have a steak, chicken, fish. If you're to eat a large portion of it, it's not something you can just sit there and just keep forcing yourself to eat, like a bag of chips. It's very easy to overeat in carbohydrates and fat. So therefore, if we make our protein our main priority at each meal, we fill ourselves up on that, then we're less likely to sit there and overeat our carbohydrates and our fat. So it's called protein leveraging. It works very, very well. Secondly, protein is thermogenic. And what thermogenic means, you'll see that term thrown around on like fat burners and stuff. The idea is the body heats up in temperature. We burn more calories when the body heats up in temperature. That's why you burn more calories when you work out. You're heated up. But the body also has to heat up to break that protein down, use it, disperse it, rebuild muscle tissue. So therefore, the metabolic rate picks up a little bit the more protein that we eat, which is great. That's a win-win scenario. And then lastly, protein is our main building block, and it rebuilds all of our muscle tissue. The more muscle tissue we have and that we sustain, it's still thermogenic, just as if consuming it. The body has to work to supply blood to the muscles. The muscles is what moves our skeletal bones, so we can function and do things. When that works, we have to burn calories to move that muscle. So the more muscle you have, the higher your metabolic rate has to be to burn calories. This is the full circle on why protein is so important. And I know there's some studies out there that show high protein diets to be detrimental or put a little stress on the kidneys. And there is some truth to that. There is truth because I'm talking excessive amounts. I'm talking like bodybuilders was the main study that a lot of people refer back to, who are eating like 400 or 500 grams of protein a day. That's an insane amount. Paired with a high carbohydrate, high sugar diet, which forces a lot of issues with the kidneys anyway. So that was kind of like a double whammy, but people took that study and ran with it, and it gave protein a very bad rep. So just something to think about. With that being said, how do we acquire more protein into our day-to-day diet? I know I've talked a lot about this, but I'm going to go back over it. It doesn't hurt to do it. And then just some ideas to go with more protein or to get daily. I'm going to spit it out here to get into your daily caloric intake. So with that, make protein the majority at every single meal: breakfast, lunch, dinner, even snacks, okay? Protein should be your first key in. It should be your biggest serving. With that being said, eat a bigger piece of protein, or at least make a bigger piece of protein, and eat that before you eat your sides, before you eat I know, even crazy, before you eat your vegetables and your other things. Eat as much of that as you physically can if you're struggling to get your protein in, and then eat your additional sides outside of that. So protein first, that will make a big difference. I'm not a big person on supplements. As we know, we carry them, but I feel you should use them just to fill gaps, okay? If you're not getting enough protein, then an additional protein shake or putting in whey protein throughout the day is a supplement for you. That's something you can use. I use it as a post-workout shake, just because I don't have time to eat. If I had time to eat within the next hour of myself working out, and when I work out, I would just eat a regular meal. Other than that, I take a quick shake and I'm good. Use it as a kind of like, I use it as a dessert as well occasions. I take like a Greek yogurt or a regular plain yogurt, and I will mix a scoop of that in, because you got the stevia, which sweetens up the protein powder. It mixes really well. So does collagen. Mixes really well into that yogurt, and I kind of have like a sweeter yogurt at the end of my night that has like 40 grams of protein. I know I've talked about the Chomp sticks or the grass-fed beef sticks, because there's a big world of difference between a Chomps grass-fed beef stick and a Slim Jim, okay? We want quality over quantity. Again, your protein sources, chicken, beef, pork, any animal product that you're not breading and deep fried is always going to be a good, clean protein source. Leaner meats are going to be higher in protein. So like for instance, 4 ounces of ribeye only has like 25 grams of protein because it has so much other additional fat. That's why that has that big marble. That's why it tastes so good. A sirloin steak is incredibly lean. So 4 ounces of that, you're going to get closer to like 40, 45 grams of protein per 4 ounces and not so much fat. So maybe switch to leaner protein sources. 90-10 ground beef is a good go-to. Bison is actually one of my favorites. I get it at Costco. Bison's incredibly lean as well. Very high protein and quick. So something like that is a good additional add. Egg whites I'm okay with. And the reason egg whites are so easy, that you can mix them in stuff. A lot of them have been pasteurized and in those cartons, which is fine. You can throw them in shakes. You can scramble them up real quick and add them to your additional eggs or other things you can throw them in. Some people have inflammation issues with egg whites. Not all, some. You got the egg yolk and the egg white. The whites are typically higher inflammation compared to the yolk. The yolk's the fats, the nutrients, the stuff your body really wants. The egg white is more just that protein, and some people struggle with it. If you're not one of those people, egg whites is a good go-to for additional bump in protein if you can sneak it in somewhere. I'm not a big fan of going to like nuts for protein. Nuts are a fat. The majority of the macros in nuts are fat, so I consider them a fat. We've been conditioned that, oh, peanut butter is a great protein source. No, it's a terrible protein source. It's a great fat source, but again, there's barely any protein in it. The protein in it's not structured very well from an amino acid structure point because, again, it's a fat. So something to think about. Share tips with friends. If there's something you find that's easy to get protein in, I'm not a fan of the protein breads because, again, it's a unique protein or even like a poor grade protein that's been pushed into a bread, cooked up a bunch, restructured to be soft and spongy to fit in with the bread. Just not a fan of it. If it works for you and it doesn't bother you, then something you can occasionally use. But that'll be coming out in the video that I have of breaking down all the foods that I like and debunking some health foods. I'm not a big fan of the keto breads or the protein breads, and I'll break that down in another video because this one's lasting way too long anyway. So other than that, let me know if you got any questions. Ask if you think anything's a good protein source. Reach out to me or your coach. Say, hey, do you think this is good for protein? And I'll say, oh yeah, it's good, or it's more of just a marketing gimmick, kind of like the breads and stuff like that. But other than that, keep it up and good luck this week.